Sorry, sir, I don't have any change.
Sir, I'm not looking for your money. I'm not looking for your money, buddy. I'm looking for that new Arctic Monkeys. Have you heard it?
No, I haven't heard it yet. It's not out yet.
Sir, I'm out on the streets day and night. I've been begging, and you just walked out of the record store with the Arctic Monkeys album.
This is the 2013 release. You know, it's old. You've probably even heard it already if you're...
Sir, of course I've heard it. Are you questioning if I'm a fan?
No, but...
Sir, please. I've been on the streets day and night listening to Arctic Monkeys every day.
The new album, it's a normal release. You know, I know they didn't put out a single, but it's coming out tomorrow on streaming. And
I need a taste, man.
It's coming out on Spotify.
Give me a hit.
And Apple Music, and the title of that even floats your boat.
It's a regular release?
Yes. It's normal.
Then what am I doing here, man? What am I even doing here, man? I've been out.
It's a normal album, man.
Man, it's bullshit. I've been out in the streets day and night, and it's just a regular release after all that. Later. What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the 6th studio album by the alternative band from the UK, the Arctic Monkeys. This one is titled Tranquility Base Hotel Casino, referring to the spot of the lunar landing. There's definitely references to the moon, to science, politics, a lot of other things, and including technological advances that really get inside the mind of Alex Turner, and as a result, he exposes those thoughts to the world at large. Now, the Arctic Monkeys had a lot of pressure just building and mounting over the years that they didn't release new material, and that's kind of odd in a way considering they were coming off of their most successful album, at least in terms of like overseas success, especially in the US in the form of AM. They had a lot of hit singles including Do I Wanna Know, Are You Mine, Snap Out of It, a lot of great tunes there and plenty that grew on me. I didn't really appreciate that album as much as I should have when it dropped, but 5 years on, yeah, definitely a fan. And overall, I am a pretty big Arctic Monkeys fan. I would dare say that they've become one of my favorite bands in recent times. So many great underrated moments like Humbug and Suck It and See in their discography, and also great other appreciated moments like their debut, and obviously Favorite Worst Nightmare. I've got a couple of reviews up for the Arctic Monkeys, just search it up on my channel if you're curious. The first time you hit play on Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, prepare to be thrown for a loop, or maybe your first front flip. This is a very odd album, one that references technology a whole lot, lives in fear, but also pushes a certain notion and idea. It's piano driven, thanks to the piano that was gifted to him in 2016 by his manager. I'm sure many of us are probably kicking him for that gift, saying, why couldn't we have some more guitar-centered moments? But if you're saying that there's no guitars on this album, I think that you're sadly mistaken because you're just not listening closely enough. While you will be thrown for that loop, I think that this album is one that takes a little bit of patience. You have to give it some time, and you have to go into it with an open mind. Because I'm not afraid to call an album bad if it is bad, but this album is simply not. It's one that is very different, and it's one that might be hard to accept as a longtime Arctic Monkeys fan, but I do think that you need to open your ears, give it the proper chance, even though there's maybe not a hit single here, or one that calls to mind with modern alternative stylings. It's one that has a patience to it. It broods, it waits, and it knows when to comment. And don't think that Alex Turner has changed all that much as a lyricist, because overall, while this album does have its concepts, I think that there are very loose structures and he's able to still use his whimsical metaphors to get across the ideas that are floating around in his head. There's many strange lyrical moments here once again, which is something that I've come to expect from Alex Turner, but even some of these were so ridiculous that it just made me chuckle. Like the Moon Sideboob on the title track was a reference that he dropped, and I seriously didn't know what to do. I was like, is that right? I went to look up the lyrics and yep, there it is, the Moon's side boob. He wants to be kissed under that. And I understand what he's going for there, maybe kiss me in the darkness or in secrecy or when the moon is at a crescent, or I don't know, when it's made to look like a side boob. I guess I get it, but still, weird lyric is weird. There's multiple references to Batman, science fiction, and just movies are discussed, and a lot of technological advances that Turner seems scared of, and I share in his sentiments because he's talking about the addictions and getting sucked into the black hole of your phone. It's a rabbit hole that leads us to not know how to communicate with one another really properly in person, and it leads to us being dickheads, as he describes online. This record opens up with an admission of sorts. As you've probably already heard in interviews, Turner revealed the first lyric where he essentially admits that he just wanted to be one of the Strokes in his early days, and many people knew that he was a huge fan, so were the Arctic Monkeys in general, and this just kind of confirms that, and I love the way that it starts off this record in kind of a playful manner, and I do think that people might take this album too seriously because there are grains of humor really thrown in on the majority of these tracks. It's just a matter if you will harvest them or if you'll just take them literally. I did find it a bit strange that the band members, the Arctic Monkeys themselves, didn't play on every single song here. For example, there's tracks where Nick O'Malley might play a different instrument or doesn't appear on bass, his typical instrument for the band. There's tracks where Jamie Cook doesn't play the guitar, there's ones where he plays different styles of guitar, and there's ones where he plays the synth, and then there's ones that just feature entirely other members, people who contributed to the album and just made a difference in terms of both production, guitar playing style, and everything like that. And once Jamie Cook, the guitarist for the Arctic Monkeys, was shown these demos, he said his jaw basically dropped. He was shocked at the direction of the demos that he was taking. And Alex Turner was basically saying, hey, I got this piano, I want to write tracks on the piano, and some of the vocal and piano takes that he did in demo form actually made it onto this album. So that shows you that this record is very raw. It's something that can feel intimate, like you're sitting in a room watching someone play these songs, and I do like that approach. But at the same time, sure, I miss the more raw instrumentation that was a little bit more explosive, and I do miss the fact that not every song features every Arctic Monkey. In a way, do I wish that this had been an Alex Turner solo album like Jamie Cook had suggested? Absolutely, but at the same time, I guess I have to take it for what it is. One Point Perspective has a great guitar solo on it, and I like the commentary there. Tranquility Base Hotel Casino, the title track here, is a lot of fun, and I like the way that the pianos chime there. American Sports has a great, almost theatric approach to the piano playing, and I love the way that they just kind of have a vibrato to them, and the looming bass line on that is just perfection. There's so many great musical moments that I think people might overlook because it's not their typical sound, but the bass from Nick O'Malley the majority of the time is just fantastic. It pops off in the background, and it does give you that jazzy feel with the way that you feel like you're sitting in the room, perhaps in a fancy elevator going into a hotel somewhere. I don't know the exact feeling, but still, Nick O'Malley crafts many of these songs and really shapes them up with his bass. It matches up with the pianos and the light drumming from Matt Helders, and as he said, he had to limit himself on this album. In the past, he's really cut loose, gone crazy with the drumming. Here, he had to have a more nuanced approach, something that embraced minimalism and also just played off of the rest of the band instead of really just having his own creative strides. She Looks Like Fun sounds like a White Stripes song in the way that it opens up. I love the pianos here, the way that they just have a bombast to them, and then it plays off of Turner's more calm voice. And on this record in general, Turner does sound very calm, cool, and collected, and I'm sure that there's people that are going to be wanting him to unleash a little bit more, to give us something more, but this album does embrace restraint, and to be quite honest, that does match up with the instrumentals. More often than not, the instrumental doesn't call for him to just be so over the top or outlandish. There are moments like the David Bowie inspired 4 out of 5, which could be the single for this, even though there weren't any singles, or at least there aren't at the time of recording this video. David Bowie was a legend, obviously, in his own right, and he had so many songs that are going to make you think of this track 4 out of 5. And since he's passed, it's been really interesting to see how that death has affected so many different people, and the inspiration in the vocals is very clear here. Even the way that there's layers and the backing vocals and everything like that, 4 out of 5 is a very, very strong cut. I love the pianos, the guitars, the rumbling bass on this one. It's a 5-minute track that doesn't feel that long whatsoever. You totally get sucked into its feeling. Batphone doesn't shy away from getting playful. I love the fact that he says, if you need me, you can reach me on the Batphone. That is one reference to Batman, obviously, but on the song before that, Science Fiction, we have a reference to Wayne Manor, where Bruce Wayne, Batman, actually lives. And I found that to be interesting, just the way that he breaks these things out and also manages to tie them into the lyrical themes that really go all throughout this record. Science Fiction is also very fun. It has these kind of jagged piano chord progressions that I really do enjoy. I think it might remind a lot of people of a film's soundtrack or something of that sort. Now, there are moments that don't live up to these other songs, and even though I do like a lot of these songs, I won't call them by any means the best that Arctic Monkeys has to offer. In fact, it might remind you a little bit more of maybe some of Alex Turner's solo stuff that he's actually put out, or maybe even the last Shadow Puppets, which I'm not as huge on. I do think that this stands taller than their last record that he released with that group, but still, by no means the best stuff that they've put out, but still very good and enjoyable, except for the couple of songs that I'm going to list here. The first of those being something that was inspired by a clickbait title, or not really a clickbait title, I guess it was actually accurate, but just something that he saw that caught his attention. He said it was verbatim exactly this: the world's first ever monster truck front flip. An interesting title perhaps, but not exactly well executed. I do not like the pianos on this one. The drumming just feels so dull and so dry. And I'm sure that many people are thinking that that's how it sounded all throughout this LP to me, when in reality, I feel like the drums often need to have that appeal. But here, they just seem dry for the sake of being dry, and the vocal performance from Alex Turner here just feels so uninspired. I do not like this tune whatsoever. The other one that I kind of cut out that I don't care for as much, at least, is sadly the closing moment, the Ultracheese. I once again appreciate a lot of the lyrical content. He kind of talks about, friends' pictures being up on the wall, except they're not actually up on a physical wall. It's just that we see everything on social media. And that is an obsession of his throughout this record, and I totally get where he's coming from the majority of the time. It's just that here, I don't think that the music surrounding what he's saying lyrically really adds up to be that great whatsoever. In fact, like I said, would call this one of my least favorites on the LP. Finally, I have to give some praise to Golden Trunks. I love the fuzzed out guitar that loops all throughout this one. It just seems a little bit more menacing and tense than some of these other moments, and I think that a lot of Arctic Monkeys fans are going to appreciate it. It seemingly references the leader of the free world, aka Donald Trump, and the whole boxing correlation that's made there with the Golden Trunks. The way that somebody walks out has their own theme tune, and this might reference the fact that he was on The Apprentice, had his own reality show, a theme tune there, and the fact that he kind of treats it like it is a boxing match, the presidency of the United States that is, and he's just made it a mockery, a total joke of itself. This is a fantastic song and absolutely one of my top favorites. I will wholeheartedly admit that I did not like this album on first listen, but as I played it more and more in preparation for this review, it started to win me over, and I do feel like you have to be in the right mindset to actually play this album. It's more of a nighttime vibe, at least in my opinion, with those slow bass notes and the way that it just kind of plays and makes love to the piano and the slow jazzy drums that just remind you of a simpler time, maybe of the 70s, maybe of the 60s, and the guitar that is used in nuance and it's used in restraint, but it explodes at the end of some of these tracks and it gets even the fuzzed out treatment like on Golden Trunks or even a solo on One Point Perspective. There are still plenty of guitar moments here, it's just that you actually have to listen for them. Overall, while this isn't the Arctic Monkeys' strongest album, I do feel like it is very solid through and through, and I don't know how well it will be received commercially. I don't know if fans are going to rush out to buy or stream this one as much as they would maybe something like AM, but I do hope that people give it the proper chance. Me personally, I am giving this a strong 3.5 out of 5, and I am very curious to know, what do you think of this record? Please sound off your opinions in the comment section down below, and drop a like on the video while you're here. Alright guys, make sure you subscribe to the LP Club. Ethan was kind enough to meet up with us here in Pittsburgh, shoot this video. Ethan, what do you do on your channel?
I review albums just like John, and I'm a little bit younger if you didn't notice, so...
I did not.
No, not at all. And so yeah, I've been doing album reviews and such like that.
So cool, subscribe to Ethan, it'll be linked in the description down below, and other than that, a few other links floating around here for you, and see you soon on ARTV.